Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts. We begin tonight in Nunavut. The federal government is trying to dismiss a lawsuit brought forward by Inuit in the hamlet of Igloolik. It alleges medical experiments were performed on them without their consent. The CBC's Mahnor Mubarak has our top story tonight.
The federal government says the alleged events happened more than 50 years ago, and under a limitations defense, too much time has passed for this case to go to trial. 5 Inuit filed an initial statement of claim over 6 years ago. Paul Kwasa is a former Nunavut premier and is one of the plaintiffs on the case. He says skin grafts were taken from him and placed onto his family members without consent.
To me, that's kind of degrading in a sense when you're being used as a guinea pig, in a sense. That's how I felt afterwards.
The International Biological Program was a large-scale project involving research from scientists worldwide. It looked at everything from pest control to pollution and more, including how people adapted to their environments. The claim says experiments were performed on Inuit in Igloolik in the 1960s and 70s, and they involved 3 Canadian universities. Stephen Cooper is a lawyer representing the plaintiffs.
The government is trying to escape its responsibilities. It's trying to escape explaining its involvement. It says it had no involvement. That's great. Go to court. Convince the judge of that.
None of the claims made in the lawsuit have been tested in court. In a response, the federal government says the allegations are deeply troubling and that there is no evidence it was involved in conducting the research. A judge will decide if the government's argument stands. The plaintiff's lawyer says a date for when that will happen has not been decided yet. Mahnor Mubarak, CBC News, Iqaluit.
Jurors in Whitehorse presented their findings and recommendations this week in the coroner's inquest into the death of Hugh Riffle. Riffle was fatally shot in 2022 by a Yukon RCMP officer at the Air North compound. The inquest wrapped up after 7 days of testimony. Tori Fitzpatrick reports.
It was here that a RCMP bullet killed Hugh Riffle. The jury found that he died of a gunshot wound to the abdomen on November 24, 2022 at approximately 12:52 p.m. They provided recommendations to Joe Sparling, president of Air North, and its subsidiary Chieftain Energy. Recommendations included that Air North ensure there is an emergency lockdown protocol for all facilities, that employees participate in annual emergency response drills, that staff parking be outside of the secure area, only accessible by staff ID cards, and that all workspaces have locks on doors. Chieftain employees testified that the hangar Riffle entered did not have locks at the time, but locks have since been added. Riffle entered the compound through a secure vehicle gate behind an Air North vehicle. In a statement to CBC, Sparling said that the recommendations will be reviewed internally. The jury did not provide any recommendations to the RCMP. Constable Joel Talbot, the officer who shot Riffle, provided written testimony this week. It said he fired 2 shots at Riffle after Riffle entered a, quote, danger zone for him and other officers. Prior to the inquest, an Alberta watchdog found Talbot acted legally. In a statement Thursday, Yukon RCMP said it will, quote, review the findings. Tori Fitzpatrick, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Week 2 of the Yukon election campaign is over. It was a short week because of Thanksgiving, but it was still pretty eventful. Chris Windier brings us a recap.
The Liberals were the first party to release their platform this week. It's got a heavy focus on housing, public safety, healthcare, and affordability. And there's also a lot of space taken up by the party's record in government. So if you expected leader Mike Pemberton to make a clean break with the Sandy Silver Ranch Palais era, think again. There is also a big focus on the $4 billion Yukon BC Grid Connect project. From the Yukon party, no platform yet, but some big promises nonetheless. They say they'll overhaul the education department. They're also promising to cancel the proposed new Whitehorse Elementary School location in the Takini neighborhood. That project has been controversial. And they are also promising to bring on more educational assistance. The Yukon Party also talked about the economy this week. They want to cut regulations, privatize cannabis distribution, and notably complete new mining legislation. That is a process that the Liberals started when they were in government, have not finished yet. Also, no full platform yet from the NDP, but they were talking about trades training and education this week. They want to expand apprenticeships in the communities. They're promising to hire 35 new education assistants and more teachers. And they want to build a new elementary school in downtown Whitehorse. On the economy, the New Democrats are promising to decentralize government jobs, and they're pitching what they call a values-based procurement policy that would require community benefit agreements for major projects, including local hiring and fair wages. And with that, we're already halfway through this election campaign. Chris Windier, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Candidates on the ticket for the Yukon election represent a range of experiences, perspectives, and diversity. Nominations closed earlier this week, and on the list are more women running for office. Jillian Green reports.
There are 27 women running for office this time around, and that represents about 44% of all candidates. As well, there are 14 First Nations representing ridings across the territory. That includes the Southern Lakes and all the way up north in Vuntut-Gwitchen. There's also other folks from backgrounds including the Filipino community. Yukon Party leader Curry Dixon says this is a step in the right direction.
We've seen a considerable change in our team. We've got a whole bunch of new faces. I'm really proud of the team that we've put together. We've got folks from around the territory with a diverse set of backgrounds.
Cynthia James is a citizen of the Carcross-Tagish First Nation. She's running for the Liberals in Southern Lakes. James says it's crucial to have First Nations candidates.
We don't want anyone to get burnt out. We want to be proactive in making sure that nobody gets left behind.
The NDP has several candidates on the ballot who are part of the 2S LGBTQ+ community. Lane Treasure, the incumbent in Whitehorse Centre, is non-binary. They say the NDP wants to appeal to as many people as possible.
In order to really represent Yukoners across the territory from all kinds of walks of life, we have to have teams of people leading that are also diverse and have those different experiences.
Each party says Yukoners deserve to see themselves reflected in the next Yukon legislature. Ultimately, voters will have their say come election night on November 3rd. Julian Green, CBC News, Whitehorse.
Small communities in the Yukon say they've seen staff shortages at their local health clinics for years. But many say this past year has been especially bad. Now, in the run-up to the Yukon election, all three parties have made commitments targeting rural health care. Caitlin Pilkington has that story.
Here in Faro, residents say it's not unusual to walk up to the health center doors and find them locked. Several times over the past few months, hours have been reduced. In some cases, that's led to the health center being closed altogether. In Ross River, the health center has been staffed, but a doctor won't be able to visit the community for months. In the Dena General Store, there's an offer to help people fill the gap, a federal program that funds First Nations medical expenses and travel when provincial and territorial health care isn't available.
NAHB is doing their best to support what is going on with the health situation that we're going through from Ross to Faro.
A doctor will be in town next week, but there won't be one again for some time.
Yes, December 1st, so I know there's quite a bit of people that are out there kind of really shocked, because I was too myself, but yeah, so that's just a shocking thing that's happening right now.
For many, traveling from remote communities to get health care isn't an ideal solution. Mary Ann Etzel had to drive for 5 hours last month to the Whitehorse emergency room, where she waited a further 5 hours.
Yeah, it does worry me. We could have an emergency, and living in a small community, we don't have the resources like to just go in. We need accommodation, travel.
And what was that like for you to have to drive for so long and then wait?
I know it was very hard on me, the long drive and waiting in emergency.
Faro, too, has dealt with long closures and shortages this year.
It's really unfortunate that this is happening right now.
The Yukon NDP has promised to hire 10 nurse practitioners to respond to the crisis. Yukon Liberals say they would expand home care support in rural communities, while the Yukon Party says they will launch a robust recruitment campaign to attract healthcare workers to rural Yukon and incentives for them to establish roots. Allen says she's skeptical about political promises, but she hopes something gets done.
This is probably will impact the older generation, especially the people with chronic illnesses. I think quite a few of them will be leaving the community.
In the meantime, the way most residents I spoke to say they're dealing with the crisis, just don't get sick. Catherine Pilkington, CBC News, Faro.
It can take up to 5 years to get publicly funded gender-affirming surgery in Alberta. The wait can be avoided, but it can cost more than $10,000 at a private clinic. The Northwest Territories government says it doesn't pay for private care. So Yellowknife community members raised money to allow their friend to get top surgery sooner. Avery Zingle has more.
It started by the very simple task of trying to find an appointment with a doctor.
Ju Orthlieb is non-binary and asked the territorial government to pay for their top surgery at a private clinic in Montreal. When the government said no to paying for the $10,000 surgery, their partner stepped up.
What happens when you have event organizing skills and the GNWT denies your partner funding for top surgery? You ask all of your closest friends and their closest friends to come throw a party with you.
The community raised almost $6,000 in just one night.
It felt very humanizing when I finally decided to abandon the public pathway, because it had been just months of kind of talking to a wall, really. So when I was like, okay, I'm gonna use my money and the community's money to try and access this care, I finally felt in control again of my transition. And
Orthlieb can now afford to go under the knife right away, thanks to these burlesque performances.
Alex, this electric performance will leave you gobsmacked.
A silent auction, and stand-up comedy at the Underground in Yellowknife.
70 if she signs the box. Oh, okay.
Comedian Shiloh Foster volunteered her jokes at the fundraiser just 1 week before her own breast augmentation in Calgary.
Walk in, and the lights are low, Anyan's playing.
Hers is paid partly through insurance, but she says not everyone has the same privilege. But she says trans care is life-saving.
It's really lovely to see the community come together for something that they should never have to do.
Orthlieb says the government's trans healthcare guidelines are unclear. A public health nurse had referred them to GRS in Montreal with the expectation that public health would pay. For Orthlieb, going the private route was a liberating moment. They were reluctant to get on Alberta's wait list.
3 to 5 years is a long time, and a lot could change in Alberta in that meantime.
Trans folks have rights too!
The province has sought to restrict gender-affirming care for youth. They worried these restrictions could later be expanded to adults. Health Minister Lisa Semler told Orthlieb that despite political rhetoric from Alberta politicians, this public care is still funded and available. But Semler says she's directed her department to explore alternatives in case that changes. The Northern Mosaic Network Executive Director Chelsea Thacker says trans healthcare needs to be timely. They said in the last year, trans people also report facing a heightened level of violence and feeling unsafe in cities like Edmonton.
Yet we're still expecting our most vulnerable community members to access care in a vitriolic place, and I don't think that that's right. I think that we should have a clear plan and keep the safety of Northerners in mind when we're asking them to already do a big thing, which is travel outside of their home communities to access care.
Thacker says by November, there will be recommendations on how to reform trans healthcare. Avery Zingle, CBC News, Yellowknife.
Singer Sarah McLachlan has launched an all-female tour.
I was in disbelief that I'd never heard of it before.
Paula Cole, Erica Badu,
Sinead O'Connor, Missy Elliott, Sarah McLachlan, Sheryl Crow, Jewel.
Promoter said, you can't put two women on the same bill. People won't come. And it put a huge fire under my butt to prove them wrong.
Women singer-songwriters in the 90s, they're my Northern Stars.
This is much bigger than what we even thought it could be.
On your marks.
Get set. Miracles never cease.
They're making more money than they have ever made in the history of the music business.
I'm a nanny.
Like Mary Poppins?
It's like the Force. Sorry, have you seen Star Wars?
No. Very predictable, you know that?
I'm hardly predictable.
Watch me follow my every move.
I'm trying very hard not to connect with people right now.
Wonderfully vibrant cuisine.
Salted egg yolk, Dungeness crab.
The most generous people you'll ever meet.
We always want to share the best with you. That's how we show love.
Lavish celebrations.
If this is where Filipino food is headed, I'm so proud.
Beautiful.
The city was under a state of emergency.
When you want news,
was found alive.
we are here for you.
CBC News, Ottawa.
And here.
Winnipeg, Whitehorse.
And here.
Cote-du-Lac, Saskatoon,
And here.
Montreal,
Calgary,
Vancouver,
Charlottetown, Dartmouth.
A man purchased this box.
What did he look like?
A man. Normal. Not particularly attractive. And he's standing right behind you.
So, you want to watch the CBC News streaming channel? You can, wherever and whenever you want. Here's how to find us. We're on the CBC News app, on CBC Gem, and on your smart TV. Stream anytime, it's always free. CBC News.
The city of Yellowknife is going through a water and sewer rate structure review. City Council is looking at 3 options. Right now, residents pay for 68% of the cost of water delivery. Here's how that could change. Option 1 would see residents pay 10% more of the cost of delivery. Option 2 is to make residents pay for the full cost or close to it. And the third option, which city councillors favor so far, is to keep current cost ratios and apply cost increases equally for trucked and piped water users. One resident is concerned about what they mean for trucked water users.
We currently pay 2 times the price for water delivered to our house on as a single-family consumer on a truck network than do piped single-family units. So status quo says you still have to pay over double what somebody on a pipe system pays.
City Council will return to the issue on October 27th. A new structure will take about a year to implement once it has been voted through. The Big River Service Centre in Fort Providence NWT has taken the next step to install a hydrokinetic water turbine in the Mackenzie River. A data collection device has been installed at the bottom of the river. It's to record the water's velocity and ice conditions. It's a step that needs to be taken before the turbine can be installed to assess any risk. A hydrokinetic turbine converts the flow of water to electrical energy without the need for dams or interfering with the run of a river.
We're trying to replace diesel generators and the use of diesel for remote communities that are dependent on it by installing those devices. Constant power that is right to their doorstep. So we're harnessing what's already available.
The machine would create electricity for the nearby Big River Service Centre and could be used to power other places in Fort Providence in the future. If the data is promising, a water turbine could be installed in the Mackenzie River as soon as next year. It's not quite shovels in the ground, but preparations are underway for Ottawa's first Inuit women's shelter, as we showed you on Thursday night. A 30-bed transitional housing facility is expected to open in the city's south end within the next 2 years. Anshul Sharma has the details.
In a sleepy residential neighborhood, Inuit throat singers perform their art, elders offer blessings, and a kulik, or an Inuit oil lamp, is lit. It's a ground-cleansing ceremony at the future home for Inuit women and children fleeing violence in Canada's capital. Throughout the celebrations, community members share their hopes. Leonie Kunuk has been living in Ottawa for the past 30 years and is familiar with the city's shelter system. She says she's been waiting for a shelter that will meet her needs.
Inuit women will have a place to go that's dedicated to them. We're grateful for this to exist.
Stephanie Mickey Adams co-chairs the Ottawa Aboriginal Coalition, which spearheaded the project 2 years ago. In April, the organization secured funding from the Federal Indigenous Shelter and Transitional Housing Initiative. Adams says this will be the first shelter of its kind south of Inuit Ninungat, offering programs rooted in Inuit values and language.
This shelter is more than a building. It is a circle of protection. It is a place where culture heals, where language is spoken, where our women can breathe again.
Joan Riggs also works with the coalition and says while other Indigenous shelters exist, demand far exceeds capacity.
They're turning away 300 Indigenous women a year, and at least 30% are Inuit. So we knew we had to respond to this need.
Riggs says it's about time Inuit in Ottawa get their needs met, especially as the city is known to have the largest Inuit population outside of Nunavut. Construction on the $6.4 million project will begin in the late fall. The shelter will have 13 units and 30 beds. Future operational costs will be covered by Indigenous Services Canada. Anshul Sharma, CBC News, Ottawa.
Entrepreneurs held a workshop in Iqaluit this week. The nonprofit supports Indigenous entrepreneurs across the North. The theme of this workshop was Made in the North, Micro Manufacturers. The CBC's Toby Utak has more.
Inuit and other people from Indigenous groups in the North who run their own business came to Iqaluit to further their knowledge in running a business and to connect and engage with small business owners. Tanya Snow from Rankin Inlet, who now lives in Yellowknife, owns Ikuma Flames. She makes candles that are shaped like kullik, a stone lamp, and candles with northern themes and northern plants.
I've learned that it's really important to nurture dreams and ideas that you have that fuel your creative fire, because through your creativity, you're gonna heal, acquire wisdom, and then find other people who are also on their healing journey, who are making a positive difference in their communities.
Ayu Peter of Iqaluit was asked to participate in the workshop. She says she wishes to start her own business. She says she didn't realize how much work it takes to start one up.
I would like to request to take part next time. You can learn a lot from this, how to make more money, what kind of products you'd like to sell. With these kinds of opportunities, you would have to prepare carefully. I would love to learn more about these.
Both Snow and Peter said they noticed that each entrepreneur experienced the impact of residential schools. Snow hopes to connect with more Inuit and with other Indigenous groups. Their next gathering will be in Whitehorse, Yukon, followed by Yellowknife NWT. Toby Utak, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The federal government has formally announced the transfer of almost 195 acres of land to the Snuneymuxw Reserve lands on Vancouver Island. It marks an important step in the nation's self-determination. As Claire Palmer reports, the transfer was decades in the making.
It's a day of celebration for the Snuneymuxw First Nation. The village of Tedaxin returned at last.
Nearly 200 years of big work and persistence led us here today. We raise our hands to you for this decisive action. get emotional just thinking of our old people.
You know, without land, there's not that opportunity for economic development in community. There's not that opportunity for more housing in community. So that's where I want to continue to accelerate the process to transfer the lands as quick as we can.
The negotiations date back to the Harper government, when Chief Weiss's mother, Viola, started negotiations.
We always fall back on the work that she started. It feels like we're bringing some of these items across the finish line for her.
This land may not look like much now, but the Snuneymuxw have big plans for it. A vision that includes developing housing, commercial space, and other economic development opportunities. He says Snuneymuxw have the lowest per capita reserve land base in BC, with this land transfer offering an exciting opportunity for people to come home.
I'd like to see some homes. I'd like to see some economic development for our community. And like I say, we've been living on top of each other on IRs 1 to 4 for generations. So to see the expansion of our lands and home development is going to be groundbreaking for us.
The nation will hold a vote in December to decide what to do with the land. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
And that is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, go to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. I'm Megan Roberts. We leave you with images of Little Canada in Toronto. This week, it unveiled its latest installation, Little North, featuring miniature versions of landmarks and locales from each of Canada's 3 territories. Have a good weekend.